Hey everyone, Daniel here, and I love movies, at least when Hollywood doesn't totally ruin them. And today we're going to be taking a look back to a 2002 animated adventure film known as Treasure Planet. Let's get started. Treasure Planet was directed by John Musker and Roger Clements, who are also credited with directing many of Disney's biggest hits, including Aladdin, The Little Mermaid, Hercules, The Great Mouse Detective, and more recently, Moana. Interestingly though, Treasure Planet was actually their passion project, but they were repeatedly shot down by Jeffrey Katzenberg when they asked if they could make it. They were actually pitching this movie all the way back in 1985 as a potential movie to do after they finished with The Great Mouse Detective. But Katzenberg said heck no. He instead wanted them to go with the other idea, which, incidentally, was actually The Little Mermaid. That movie, of course, did great at the box office, so they asked if they could do Treasure Planet now. But instead, they got put to work on Aladdin, which also did great at the box office. So with multiple successful films now under their belt, they asked Katzenberg, again, could they please make Treasure Planet? But Katzenberg was like, yeah, I'll tell you what, if you can deliver one more wildly financially successful movie with every last commercially viable element that you can possibly think of crammed in there, then I guess I'll let you make that movie that you actually care about. For the record, that's how Hercules happened. But after that, Musker and Clements finally got back to their passion project. And today, like I said, that's what we're going to take a look at. I'm going to look at the story, characters, animation, and acting to answer the question, does Treasure Planet hold up? The story. We open on our hero reading a book detailing the legend behind Treasure Planet. A planet of unknown origins where Captain Nathaniel Hunt hid his treasure, and it's even said to house the treasure of 1,000 worlds. Then we jump to 12 years later and find out that our hero, Jim, is a bit of a troublemaker. It turns out that he was operating a solar vehicle in an area where that wasn't allowed. And as it turns out, this was not the first time that he's been busted for operating that vehicle in an unauthorized area. And if it happens one more time, they tell him that he's going to get a one-way ticket to juvenile hall. So, he's got some issues. And it turns out this has been happening ever since his father left, and his mother is understandably getting to the end of her rope with him. Then, outside, a ship crash lands right in front of Jim. A space pirate tumbles out of it and tells Jim that he's being hunted down for his treasure. The pirate is noticeably in bad shape after crash landing, so Jim naturally brings him inside to his mother's restaurant. The pirate offers his treasure chest to Jim and then promptly dies. Barely a moment later, a cyborg and his crew shows up and burns the restaurant down as our heroes escape. Okay. Let's take a step back here. So we have a space pirate who has a chest, and he's being hunted down by some cyborg and his crew because of that chest. Jim does not know this pirate. In fact, he literally just met him 30 seconds ago. And yet, he accepts the chest when it's given to him. Even though he knows, or at least can guess, that the cyborg who injured the space pirate is still probably looking for it. So why did he accept the treasure chest? Was it really worth the risk? Oh, it's because it turns out that the chest contains a map to Treasure Planet in it. Gotcha. So Jim and Delbert decide to use the map to find Treasure Planet, and the adventure begins. They end up on a ship with a no-nonsense captain, a cyborg cook, and a crew of dangerous-looking ruffians. Jim is sent to cooking duty, and the ship takes off. Jim passively-aggressively tries to confront the cyborg cook, Mr. Silver, about what happened just before Jim left home. The cyborg says it must have been someone else that blew up Jim's home, citing that there are many cyborgs throughout this galaxy, but Jim remains skeptical. Now, it is later confirmed that Mr. Silver is in fact the one that blew up Jim's home, but how he and his crew managed to get hired on the same ship that Jim and Delbert did is anyone's guess. This must be one of those conveniences that people are always talking about. So our heroes are off and running, but the crew seems to be growing more and more mysterious and menacing by the minute. One of them even threatens to kill Jim just for insulting him, but is stopped at the last moment by Mr. Silver. We then get a montage where Jim is being worked to the bone by Mr. Silver, but there are hints of a blossoming relationship between them. No, not that kind. More of a father-son relationship, which is reinforced by mixing in a montage of Jim growing up and his father leaving in this sequence. But we're interrupting by a star going supernova. Jim saves Mr. Silver as the star devolves into a black hole, but the first mate is not so lucky. Thanks to Delbert's astronomical knowledge, they manage to escape the black hole.
Well, I have a lot of astronomically.
But Jim is blamed for the death of his first mate, forcing us to sit through a scene where Jim is extremely upset with himself and then is confronted by Mr. Silver. Nothing much to say here, it's the same scene you've seen dozens of times in movies before. The next morning, Jim manages to overhear a conversation between Mr. Silver and his crew. He hears Mr. Silver claiming that he was just playing Jim for a fool, keeping him and the captain off the crew's scent. This understandably hurts Jim because now he's been betrayed by his second father. Mr. Silver wanders in on Jim as he tries to leave the room where the secret meeting was just held, and is obviously very suspicious that Jim had actually just heard everything that was said. So he tries to corner Jim but gets stabbed in the leg. Jim runs out of the room and the mutiny begins. That was fast. Our heroes frantically try to escape and succeed, but only because Mr. Silver can't bring himself to shoot and kill Jim when he gets the chance due to that bond that we've seen them form throughout the course of the film. However, the captain gets wounded in another crash landing, and we find out that Jim did not actually manage to grab the map to Treasure Planet during the escape. Because Morph, a character that's been following Jim around for most of the movie and can change his appearance to mimic anything at will, made himself look like the map, and as a result, Jim took the wrong map. Understandably, Jim is pretty angry at Morph for this and storms off to look for a place that they can hide from the crew. We are then introduced to a crazy robot character named Ben. Ben is a robot that helped Captain Nathaniel Hunt create and seal Treasure Planet, but he can't remember how to get there because, well...
I'm sorry, my memory isn't what it used to be. I lost my mind. I've lost my mind.
But he does stumble into revealing his home to Jim, which looks absolutely perfect for a hideout. So they all go to Ben's place to hide, but it doesn't work out very well because he basically gives their location away at the first opportunity.
Hey, look! There's some more of your buddies! Hey, fellas! We're over here, fellas!
Thankfully, Mr. Silver does not realize that Jim doesn't have the map, and the negotiations do not go well for him. Ben reveals that there's a back door to his house that basically lets him go anywhere on the planet. Jim uses this knowledge to get the ship, grab the map, escape after Ben reveals their location again, and go back to Ben's where Mr. Silver and the gang have tied up the captain and Delbert. They force Jim to open the map and show them the way to Treasure Planet, but since Jim's the only one that can open the map, he's able to blackmail the crew into taking him and his friends along. They get to Treasure Planet, and Jim finds Ben's memories buried in the treasure. It also turns out that Hunt booby-trapped Treasure Planet to blow sky high if anyone ever tried to steal their treasure. Everyone tries to escape, and Mr. Silver finds himself caught between choosing to take the treasure and run, or saving Jim from falling to his fiery death. Silver chooses to save Jim, they escape, and the movie ends with Jim returning home to his mother to rebuild their inn. Oh, and Delbert and the captain had children, but I really don't care. So overall, it's a serviceable story for an adventure flick. Nothing spectacular, but nothing that horrible either. The animation. Now, obviously being a 2002 film, the animation isn't going to make anyone's jaws drop given today's standards. But even for its time, there wasn't anything particularly special about it. It was good enough to not be distracting, for the most part. There were some moments where certain things just didn't look like they belonged in the film. Some things like the coins in the Orcus Galacticus really looked out of place when put together with the animation on the characters and the ship. And as far as the acting goes, it was serviceable. If I had to pick a particular standout, it would have to be Michael Wincott as Scroop. I feel like he really did a nice job of capturing that menacing, almost constantly being moments away from going over the edge into violence. I watched this movie once when I was a kid, not long after it came out, and it was the only thing that I remembered before watching it again for this review. But there were definitely some weird moments of dialogue as well, and instead of explaining them, I'm just gonna let you see for yourself.
Mrs. Hawkins, my juice!
What is with the voice acting in this movie?
They'll have to pray it from old Billy Bones' cold, dead fingers afore I...
Wait, what's your name?
It's Treasure Planet.
No.
Yes.
And here it is, screaming! Go, Delbert! Go, Delbert!
What is happening?
Wait for me!
Why are there no railings there? That is a terrible idea. You know what happened the last time I saw there was no railings on a bridge? Yeah, we lost a beloved character, who I suppose technically wanted to die a couple movies beforehand, but even so. By the way, Star Wars month, right here on this channel starting May 4th. Hashtag shameless plug.
Oh! Jim, this is our ship. The RLS Legacy.
Wow. It's like totally a ship. Did that thing just fart at me?
Power!
Okay. Okay, seriously, what is with the dialogue in this movie?
I'm fluent in flatula, Jim. Took 2 years of it in high school.
What?
Flatula. Cool.
No, it isn't. The characters. The characters were again serviceable, with the obvious standout being Mr. Silver. He's the only one that to me didn't feel standard. And that's about the best way I can describe it. I don't mean to sound like I'm hating on all the other characters, because they were fine for the most part. It's just that none of them really stood out to me like Silver did. His transformation from this cold-hearted hunter of Treasure Planet to a guy that sees a lot of himself in Jim, to the point where he can't even do what it takes to fulfill his lifelong obsession, and to actually be okay with that by the end of the film, was all really well done in my opinion. As for the rest of the characters, Jim is the typical troublemaker to hero character that we've all seen before. Again, not to say that he was done badly, because for what he wasn't done bad. It's just that I've seen it before. The relationship between Delbert and the captain felt unnecessary to me, but I enjoyed both of them individually well enough. Delbert was a decent comic relief character for the most part, and so was the captain, though admittedly to a lesser degree and in a much different way. I've already mentioned how I felt about Scroop, so I'll move on from him. Morph was pretty creative as a side character, I thought. While he didn't make a huge impact on the plot, with the exception of when he mimicked the map, of course, he did get a few laughs out of me, especially when I saw it when I was younger. He's a good example of a character that's really good for kids, but not in a way that's bad for adults. And lastly, Ben. Now, I'm sure a lot of people may disagree with me here, but I found him to be pretty annoying. I just couldn't find a way to get behind Martin Short's portrayal of him in this film. And as a character, he just felt like he was there to make it easier on the other characters that are trying to find Treasure Planet. I would have much rather seen them figure it out for themselves. I also think it would have been a much more engaging escape scene from Treasure Planet if they hadn't already known that the booby traps were coming before they actually did. But that's just me. So, to answer the title question, does Treasure Planet hold up? It's tough to say. Nobody's ever really proclaimed it as a cinematic classic, so I feel it would be unfair to hold it to that standard. But if we're asking, does it hold up to the standards of being a fun adventure flick, one that may not be an instant classic, but is certainly at least worth the watch, then I would say yes. Because while there is quite a bit of odd dialogue moments and childish humor, if you can get past that, this is a solid adventure movie with a good relationship between the hero and villain, and the animation, at least for its time, was solid. So those were my thoughts on Treasure Planet. Have you seen the movie? What did you think of it? Let me know in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more movie-related videos every single Friday. Also, if you are a Star Wars fan, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell next to our name to get notifications when we upload, because starting on May 4th, we will be doing Star Wars Month on this channel. We're going to try to upload 3 videos a week, but we'll see how that goes once May comes around. And we're going to cover as much as we can from the original trilogy to Disney's current incarnation of Star Wars. So again, if you're interested in that, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell next to our name. But with that being said, thanks for watching, and have a great day.